God is moving. It's Young People Nation.
Welcome to Young People Nation. Listen to us weekly as we commit to bring transparency, healing, and truth to the everyday situations in life that might bring you down. Join us for your weekly dose of inspiration. Thank you for listening to Young People Nation. Make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And now, here's your host, Eugene and Donna Perry.
Let's go. Christ is the foundation. Know his word gon' lead us. Know I'm already going. Taking steps I believe in. Giving guidance to the youth. Giving guidance to the lost. Giving the world to the project. Lead them back to the cross.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. That's like the show Welcome Back, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Telling our age, right?
Welcome back,
but welcome back to Young People Nation. Thank you all so much for listening, for sharing, for subscribing. This community is very grateful for its sponsors and its supporters. And we're in session 2 with Mr. Michael Fortino. And again, Michael is very active in the community, his passion. He's an actor. He's a director. He just does a lot. He's a teacher. He's tapping into new events with Augusta State, and so we're just grateful to have you back. Thank you, Michael.
Of course. Thank you for having me back.
Okay, and so we're going to tap into session 2, and we're going to talk about the effects of abandonment and rejection. I did not realize how much rejection affects a person's mental, and it bleeds out into other behaviors, such as I've seen like a person kind of being a little narcissistic, very controlling, insecurities. But I want to talk about this, and again, thank you for allowing us to be a part of your journey.
Oh, well, thank you.
And let's discuss the effects that you saw of a husband or father abandoned by his family.
Yeah. So when my mom was a baby, she lived in New York with my grandmother and her father, and my grandfather left my grandmother and my mom, abandoned them at a very young age. They were both very, very young. My grandma was very young too. And it really impacted my grandmother. Okay. To the point where my mom had to stay with other family.
Wow.
It was really, she did not handle it well. And that abandonment just continued to go through my mom's life and my grandmother's. My grandmother would remarry only to have her husband murdered in the line of duty.
Wow.
And as my mom got older, and I didn't tell you guys this part, but my mom was married the first time to her husband Rick, where she had 3 kids, my half siblings. I call them my siblings. I don't do that stuff. My brother and my 2 sisters. And he passed away at 29 of a heart attack. Oh. At 29. And that really impacted my mom. And that really, between losing 2 fathers, losing a husband, and then eventually losing her own mother, it really, and then having the tragic event that happened when I was 7, it made her hold on tight to us.
Okay.
Right. You couldn't leave the end of the street kind of deal growing up because she loved us and she cared about us and she wanted to hold on to her family as tight as she could. Because and it really and as I got older and I understood that, it really broke my heart. You know, just to just that she loves us so much, and she's just been through so much in her life. And then of course recently we lost my dad about 6 months ago. No, sorry, December. It's just time flies in the first year. It really does. It was back in December 13th.
Our condolences.
Oh, thank you. But it really impacted the way that she raised us. And you know, anytime I mentioned going away from my career, it's that abandonment that kicked in for her.
Yes.
So she took that personally.
She had two forms. Death and a person walking away.
Right.
Wow.
Right. And you know, I don't want to make my mom's father, that grandfather, seem bad. You know, he would try to connect with us in the sense of sending us gifts for his birthday and Christmas. But I never met him. I never knew him. And neither did my mom. And you know, as much as I appreciated that he tried in that regard, he never tried in the regard to get to know us. And
yes. Wow.
And he had every opportunity to. You know, and I think it took me a long time to forgive him for what he did because of how much it impacted my grandma and my mom, who I love. I love them both very much.
Yes.
And they're the kind of people that never miss any show I'm in. My grandma, until she passed away, she showed up to every single show. And the last show she showed up for was a show I wasn't even in. I was stage managing. But she's just that kind of person. But
Support.
Anyway, yeah, she's that kind of support. But,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That level of abandonment, and two levels actually for both of them. Death and then somebody just walking away.
Walking out.
Yeah. And so the abandonment, I'm going to deal with your mom. The abandonment first of her father leaving.
Right. Then
my husband dying, and I got children.
Right.
And then she's watching her mom still hurting from her husband walking away.
Right. And then her losing another husband too. And I just can't imagine, like, that didn't happen when I was, alive. All that happened before I was even born.
Okay.
And just like I said, as I got older, I was just like, wow, that is just some tragic stuff. Right
yes.
there.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
But my grandma lived next door to us our whole life.
She's so close, didn't she? That's that closeness.
Yes, I'm telling you.
Yeah, and that's that closeness and that makes a lot of sense. Now that I'm sitting up here thinking that how I know coming up, my grandmother, we used to go over her house every Sunday for dinner, and back then, the food was so delicious, Jesus. But what she dealt with, because she had a mental breakdown from some things that happened in her marriage and losing children. And so, but she held very close to us as her grandchildren. My mother we lived down, not far from her at all.
Right.
Like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And that's even in your community too, how your grandparents and mother and everybody was close, huh?
Oh yeah. Because my original father didn't make himself, really, he never did make himself known. Not till others told me after he had passed. And with that, to find out that situation there, that your father's not your father, and went through the rejection period and all, and everybody dead, and then you found out about it, you be like, okay, now everything, I understand everything. So what was the big dilemma of not telling me when you're alive?
Right.
I mean, I have no heaven or hell to put you in, but at least I would know my history. And with the history coming at me at 66, said, wow, and you got a sister. I said, okay, all that taken in, it's like a backward journey in time.
Yeah, because we recognize we're strong in our faith with God. However, he had because this was on what he wanted. We had to go to therapy, still in therapy, okay? Because what we're not going to do is play with this, okay? Because we're not going to act like this didn't happen, okay? And so dealing with the rejection, you understand? And I had to, as his wife, be sensitive to his journey. I don't get to tell him, well, there's nothing you can do about it, so you got to move on. No, these are real emotions
Right.
that he's feeling,
Exactly.
and that he's still processing now.
Right.
It's been 2 years.
Yeah, and then you got to get over the being or the era of being stupid, because in this respect, and you look in the mirror, you say, I don't look nothing like my other 3 brothers, and never notice, and like a duh moment, you know.
But I
And-
always encourage him, you're not stupid. You didn't know.
No,
You know, you didn't know. My husband, that's that military side.
Yeah.
And it's got to be dress right dress. I
Yep.
need to know this. It's got to be the order. However, God doesn't operate sometimes like this. So
Right.
I believe there was a definite purpose of him not finding out sooner. However, again, my comments is very minimal, okay? Because this is his part of his journey. I'm here to support him in that. So we see how that can affect a person.
Absolutely.
It truly it can alter. You could be driving straight down the road, but it make you turn to the left, you know? Wow.
It takes God.
Yes.
It takes God, because many people turn to drugs, many people turn to drinking, and from that to find out you got a whole separate family that you don't even really know, and you be like, okay, that's why I was so rejected all them
he dealt
years.
with
That
rejection.
I could never do anything right, and I was always the blunt end of some storytelling, and then when you come into the room, you realize when the conversation changed, and you be like, now I know. You know, how could I have been so stupid?
Stop calling yourself. You're not stupid.
Well, you had to get over that.
Yeah.
And
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, because the devil made it come with it real plain. And I remember one time I was looking in the mirror, and he was like, you know, you don't look like none of your siblings, and you never notice. How dumb can you be? And you be like, oh my God.
Key word, you said the devil.
Yeah, the
But
devil.
God didn't speak to you and say that.
Yeah, he's
you
good
know.
at persecuting now.
Yeah, but we're here. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
This is why we got the podcast. To be honest with you, out of his journey has come this, because it was a mental situation for him.
Right.
And so our transparency is, we could be doing a lot of things today, okay? However, this is what we need to do, because it's part of his healing journey, which makes it part of my healing journey, because we're connected.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then you had that big issue that I had to confront my brothers. Did they know? And would I be rejected? Or accepted? And it
Well
was
received.
interesting. It was
very,
a big
very,
journey.
very well received. Even his biological father side, they're very receptive.
Oh, that's
He has a nephew. Every time we go to Charlotte, him and his family meet us, and it's becoming
Yes.
a beautiful thing. And so, but you have to face it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
understand? You can't run around it.
Can't.
And so, with your grandmother, you talked about your grandmother, and thank you, baby, so much for your transparency. Your grandmother and your mother supporting you, even through their trauma. Talk about that and what that meant to you.
Oh yeah. I mean, with my mom, I mean, it's still going on today. I mean, we still have a great relationship, and so I'm about to perform in a show with the Augusta Players, and I've been acting for 22 years,
Okay.
Okay.
even
Veteran.
professionally.
Nice.
Yes.
Veteran.
And I'm 30 years old, and so it's been since I was a little kid, and my mom has gone to everything. I should emphasize that my dad is also included in this.
Yes.
Very supportive, driving everywhere. Anything that was out of town, they were there. They were supportive and going through their own battles too. And my grandmother, as I got older, realized that she struggled a lot with, anxiety pills and taking a lot, probably more than she should. But at the same time, the doctor was prescribing probably more than they should have.
Yeah.
And just to have her at my performances, and she lived next door.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd go get her. My responsibility was to go get her for dinner.
Okay.
So I'd walk next door, walk her over, and I'd walk her home after dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I cherish those walks.
Yes.
Right.
Because they were, my grandma was my lifeline. When my mom and my sister were kind of ganging up on me, my grandma was there to be like, don't worry about that. It's them, it's not you.
yeah.
You know, and
Yes.
just for her to be a rock for me like that and not knowing what she was going through.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
for my mom to continue to be such a rock for me, especially since we've lost my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here without them. I really wouldn't. And I know that sounds kind of cliche
Mm-hmm.
but I really mean that. The last project that I worked on, the last movie, I was in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I got there. I was so excited. I hadn't been on a movie set in so long.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was starting a new medication for anxiety. And the first day I was there, I had a panic attack,
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
which made no sense to me. I think it scared me because it was like, this makes no sense. I'm excited. I'm happy to be here.
Yes.
I have no responsibilities while I'm here,
Yeah.
except to do what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
Why is this happening? And that's it scared me even more. And I called home, and I'm just on the verge of tears because I'm like, this anxiety is going to ruin my life. It's like, this is going to ruin it. And my dad picked up, and he goes, well, what do you want me to come up there?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Dad, it's 9:30 at night.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I'll be right there.
Wow.
And he got there around
Sound like you
11
paired.
o'clock, midnight. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just supposed to be for a week, and he stayed there for a month. And
Glory.
yeah.
Such
yeah.
a selfless.
And, that's where I
Wow.
really
Wow.
felt like
Mm.
I felt God there for a minute.
Yes.
I really did because like I said, it made no sense.
Mhm.
Why would I be feeling so anxious and scared to be alone when I feel great? This is exciting.
Mhm.
And then I was like, no, God put him there.
Yes.
God
and-
wanted us to have that time.
Amen.
Yes, and he didn't come with a list of, well, you should have did this and this.
Right.
He was just present.
Yes.
Yes.
And these are 14-hour days on set.
Yes.
They're 14-hour days.
Mm-hmm.
And so and they were night shoots too. So I'd tell him good night and I would tell him good morning.
Yes.
That was, and he would do his best. And again, this is his way of showing he cares. He'd have Domino's or leftover Waffle House waiting for me.
Yeah.
Depending on what time it was, you
Yes.
know.
I know
Dinner-
that was the best meals you ever
Yeah.
had.
And they were, they were long days, and he was just happy to be a part of it
Wow.
and just to be a part of my life and to be a part of that process. And my mom is the same way. And my mom has watched me play a tree or play all these background roles. And, for her to see me play the lead in Little Shop of Horrors, which is, it means the world to me. And I do this, I love to do it, but I do it for her, and I do it for people like her that support me.
And Nugget parents, if you're listening to him, his parents were very present at his events. They were present. They made time. These memories, your children's games, and it may not, the cheerleading and whatever they're trying to discover they're wanting to do, support them.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, support them, and they will remember that.
I do.
Our daughter often talks about, 'cause my husband has always been a huge supporter of our daughters. She said, I remember Dad being in the military, coming from work in his uniform to her practice
Right.
or to her game. These are memories of you being very present.
Absolutely. And I I forgave my parents for not being able to be present in other aspects of my life, but because they worked so hard.
Yes.
My mom was a single mom. She worked multiple jobs at once.
Yes.
Before, I mean, she was used to being on that kind of grind, just working,
Yes.
working to support.
Yes.
Even when she didn't have to, she just couldn't turn that off. 'Cause,
Yes,
maybe
yes.
that's that trauma.
Yes.
And my dad was just worked all the time. And it's funny you say that, but one of the core memories I have is I was 12 years old and I was running track because my agent said I was out of shape. and I needed to pick up any sport. And I said, well, I can run really fast. And she goes, okay, well, that's fine. And I thought I ran really fast. I ran the 4x1, the 4x4, and the 200. But I was not good at the 200. But my dad showed up for this one event, and we were going up against Harlem Middle School, and I won the race. And I could not believe it. I was so winded and I was so tired. And I look up and I don't see my dad. And I'm like, and then I look a little higher and there he is clapping. And I was like, ugh.
Yes.
Yeah, he's yeah. It was. Those are really core memories, and he really did. He was one of those parents that would say nice things behind your back.
Yeah. Not necessarily.
Not to you.
Okay.
Not to you. When he passed away, I think one of the things I heard the most was, sorry if I get a little emotional, is how proud of me he was.
Yes.
And I went and he went to Augusta Oncology. And the nurses there were so nice. And my dad had a contagious kind of comedic personality.
Yeah.
And he just impacted everybody he met. And I went and talked to one of the nurses one day because she was having a baby, and we got to know these nurses.
Yes.
And we dropped off a gift. And this is the first time I'd seen her since my dad had passed. And she was just like, ugh. She was just like, he was so proud of you. And you were just a light for him.
Wow.
And, being so close to him and taking him to all these appointments and, being there for those bad moments of his cancer. I never really got to see a lot of that.
Okay.
But I didn't realize how much he looked forward to going to my shows and how proud he was of me anytime I was in a commercial. He would call me anytime a commercial. He saw the commercial I was in.
Yeah.
I was like, Dad, I'm at work right now. He goes, I know, but your commercial just came on. I just think that's great. You getting paid for that? He was he was just yeah. I miss him. I love him a lot. But
you shared about how your father's father handled him. So your father made a decision.
Yeah.
That he was not going to handle his children how he was handled.
Right. My dad came from first generation. He's a first generation in the States. His parents are from Italy. And as much as I love my grandfather, he probably didn't discipline his children the way he should have. He was very physical. When my dad was a kid, he got in trouble for putting Limburger cheese in the air vents at his school.
Okay.
That was bad. We all can recognize. He wasn't the only one. It was a group of kids.
That's my hero.
And
Gosh.
that's what everybody said. And the school shut down for 2 weeks, but he was out of school for a month on suspension. And when all the parents came to pick up the kids, they would just kind of spank them, paddle, the discipline that the Catholic schools would give out. But my grandfather didn't say a word. He picked him. He was quiet the whole way home. And then when he got home, he really laid into him. He really beat him. And it wasn't because of what he did. Like all of us, he thought it was hilarious. But it was because he had to miss a whole day of work to go pick him up.
Wow.
Not even a whole day, a half day of work.
So it wasn't even about him as a child and what you did wrong, but just about me.
Yeah. And I think that really irked my dad.
Yeah.
And my dad didn't like that about my grandfather. And he was, my dad was the left out one of his family, and he got out of there when he was as young as he could. He was a troublemaker. He found his family in other places.
Yeah.
Probably not the right places.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
that's what happens.
that's what happens. He was a big troublemaker. He then got in a lot of trouble, and they gave him the option of you can go to prison or you can join the Marines, which saved him. Yes. Didn't do a lot for his mental health at the time because that was the generation where you could hit you could be a staff sergeant and hit.
Yeah.
And he got pal. Yeah, exactly. He showed me a lot of Full Metal Jacket, and he said, "Yep, that's what it was like for me. Exactly what it was like for me." And that's just traumatizing. Just watching that movie and seeing people get abused like that. But when he got out of the military, he knew that when he had kids, that is not what he was going to do. He said he was going to let them be what they wanted to be.
That's good.
And he would find other ways to discipline his kids, which he got good at the Godfather whisper. That was his form of discipline.
Okay.
If you don't, he would be acting up at dinner, and he would just come right behind us and whisper. He'd be like, if you do not stop doing this, we're going to have some real issues here. So why don't you just sit down and eat your cheeseburger? Yes, Dad.
Okay.
Again, that's how he not the best way, but it was the best way that he knew how.
Yes, and better than what he experienced.
And way better than what he had experienced.
Wow.
But yeah, sorry. I go off on tangents about my dad.
Look, that's because you love him and you miss him.
I do.
And we're understanding because both our parents are going to be with the Lord, so we talk about him a lot.
Yeah.
Like for me, I talk about my mom all the time.
Oh yeah,
she's been gone for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
So
I hope after 20 years I don't lose that love for my dad.
Oh, you won't.
I don't think I can.
Not.
And that's my mom and I were talking about that too. We were just it's just he was such a contagious personality. He would never miss First Friday Improv, whether I was in it or not.
Yes.
He didn't care. He was there. And I would always say, when he walked in the room, I was the second funniest Fortino in the room, because he would from the audience would get people to laugh with him, and I'm just sitting on stage going, "What are you doing? How are you doing this?"
Natural.
Yeah. I get it all from him. I get all my sense of humor.
All right.
So your perspective, Michael. We're gonna wrap it up about abandonment and rejection. You've spoken so beautifully about your father, your mother, your grandmother, even through what they went through. They was very supportive of you. They didn't climb up in a shell. They did not bleed over, because you probably saw some hemorrhaging, but it wasn't it wasn't. Well, you saw some bleeding, but you didn't see a hemorrhaging. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
So, what's your perspective on how it affected you as young Michael and Michael right now?
Well, how that affected young Michael, I would say it impacted a lot of the decisions I made. And I was the one that wanted to leave Augusta and go different places and try new things and be in a different community. And my mom put it in me that that's not the way to go. And she did not use the best ways, and we've talked about this.
Yes.
And that's the good thing about me and my mom. We've talked about this, and she would tell me that, if you leave, you can't afford that. Right. And you're not going to be able to do this. And she was not encouraging.
Okay.
She would encourage me to do things that were local.
Okay, because she wanted to hold you close.
She wanted to hold me close.
Yes.
Right. And as time passed, I didn't understand that. And especially at 19, 20, I was getting in just screaming matches with my mom, because I'd be like, I don't understand why you don't want these good things for me. I got an internship with the Walt Disney Company. I can go and live in Orlando for 6 months and get paid and do all these things. And it scared her. And if I remember we got into it, and she's like, "You just can't afford it. You can't do." And I'm just like, "What is it?" And she goes, "I just don't want you to go."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that because then I was just, and then it all just kind of, everything just kind of
gelled
clicked
together.
and made sense. We just lost my grandmother at the time, and you know, that she lived next door, and there was a lot of uncertainty of who was going to live in the house next door. You know, do we want random people living there, or do we want to try and, you know, buy the house? And I think me leaving was just like a big no for her. She just couldn't, and that impacted a lot of the decisions I made. I limited myself a lot because I was like, in this realm of possibility, I'll do as much as I can, but I'll limit myself like this. And that really affected like how I viewed myself and what I was capable of doing. And but at the same time, I feel like all of this has made me more empathetic too.
Okay.
To people's emotions, because you realize how little subtle things that your parents do or your grandparents do are clues to things that they have going on in their own lives.
Yes.
I remember when I saw my dad have a panic attack, and I was the only one that knew he was having it because they had never. But it's made me more in tune with people's emotions, and I very much care about how people are feeling. You know, and sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but yeah, it made me more self-aware of the decisions I make. In conclusion, of the decisions I made, and and I realized that the trauma was. Sorry.
You're fine.
David, cut this part out. I'll start this part over.
You're
start
fine.
it here. I'll send him a text message.
You're fine. You're fine.
You're fine.
But yeah, how it affected young Michael. I got a little emotional there. Sorry.
You're good. Michael, you're fine.
You're
fine, Michael.
This is real life.
Yeah, this is real. This is what this podcast is all about.
I'm much more aware today of how this trauma has impacted me, and how I limited myself as a child, and how I cannot limit myself as an adult.
Okay.
How it's important to take care of myself and to take care of the trauma not only that I have, but that was passed on to me.
Okay.
Amen.
That I inherited.
Okay.
Amen.
Okay. Yeah.
Well spoken.
Very well spoken, and don't need to cut out nothing. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you for your transparency. You never know who's listening, and they need to hear that. So we're gonna roll with that. Okay. We like to give out our 988 hotline. It made me got you. I was feeling you. We like to give out our 988 hotline. We never know mentally who is listening, how they are being affected. So again, we have a 988 hotline. We also have the community, not Young People Nation, has a text home to 741-741. That's free 24/7 crisis counseling. And, of course, if you're not sure of what you need, 211. That's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mr. Perry.
Parents, you are the core to the family and the core to your kids growing up. And I tell you, if you got one parent, that's good. You got two, that's terrific. It is extraordinary. And going through life and all like that, personally myself, I was 35 years old when my father told me he loved me. And it was the best present I ever got at 35. And it was well to wait. And you got to remember, when you live your life, are you living it the way you want to live, or are you just existing? This has been Young People Nation. And remember, there is always hope.
Christ is the foundation. Know his word gon' lead us. Know I'm already going. Taking steps steps I believe in. Giving guidance to the youth, giving guidance to the lost. Give the world to the project, lead them back to the cross. He the #1 prospect, he the top boss. I was broke, I was empty, he the one that paid the cost. Really thought that I was cool, there was nothing like the savior. Now it's time for the truth, the whole world been waiting. It's Young People Nation, 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 it's Young People Nation. The whole world been waiting. Whatever you going through, I know what he gonna do. Don't matter the circumstance, we going back to the root. Keep going, let that seed keep growing. You need peace and we know it. Now it's time to live holy. Young People Nation, you know what time it is. Young People Nation, get ready, the time is here. Get ready, we vibing here. We about to let God in here. Young People Nation, it's Young People Nation. Yeah, do it for the heavens, you know where we going. Influenced by his love, you know we gotta show it. It's time to put the youth onto what God is doing. Cause I can tell you now, right now, that God is moving. It's Young People Nation.